The order came on a Monday morning, formal, official, stamped with the seal of the Velmis-9 Entertainment Complex's new corporate ownership, the Hegemony Commercial Entertainment Authority, which had acquired the station 3 months ago and which had been, in those 3 months, making a series of decisions that the station's existing staff had described as ranging from concerning to catastrophic, depending on who you asked and how much coffee they'd had. The order said, effective immediately, the entertainment asset designated Morrvaakh 1 is to be transferred to the authority's primary entertainment facility at Corvette Station. Transfer is scheduled for 0600 Thursday. All associated research access and personnel arrangements are hereby terminated. Dr. P. Sharma's research credentials for this facility are revoked with immediate effect. Wholesome read the order that he read it twice, that he thought about the last 3 months, about the preliminary research Dr. Sharma had been conducting, about the inflammation treatment that had reduced the Morrvaakh's chronic irritation by 73% and produced the first documented improvement in the creature's baseline aggression levels in 11 years. About the behavioral assessment that had generated more scientific interest in the xenobiological community than anything published about the Morrvaakh since its capture. About the waiting list of researchers who wanted access to the data. He thought about something else, that he thought about what the Morrvaakh did when Dr. Sharma was late for her morning session. It sat by the gate. It waited. It made the sound, the warm sound, the one the audio engineers had classified as approximate equivalent, contentment. When she arrived, he thought about what the Morrvaakh had done last week when a maintenance worker had accidentally entered the wrong section and found himself face to face with 4 tons of apex predator at close range. The Morrvaakh had looked at the maintenance worker, had looked at the door he had come through, had made a sound that Wholesome's translation system had rendered, haltingly, as something close to, "You are not her," and had waited, patiently, for the maintenance worker to leave. Wholesome set the order down. He picked up his communication device. He called Dr. Sharma. "Dr. Sharma," he said, when she answered. "I need you to come to the station. Now. I'm in the middle of a..." "Now," he said. "Please." A pause. "Is it the Morrvaakh?" "Yes." A shorter pause. "I'll be there in 4 hours," she said. He looked at the order. He thought about Thursday. About 0600. About what was going to happen when a transfer team arrived to move the Morrvaakh to Corvette Station. "Make it 3, he said. What had changed 3 months ago? Velmis-9 had been an independent station. Independently owned, independently operated, with the particular character of places that had been running long enough to develop their own culture, their own ways of doing things, their own staff who had been there for years and understood how the station worked, their own unwritten rules that everyone followed because everyone knew why they existed. The Hegemony Commercial Entertainment Authority had acquired it in a transaction that the station's previous owner had described as an offer that was technically voluntary, and that everyone else had described as something else. The authority ran 47 entertainment facilities across the Hegemony's commercial territory. It was very good at what it did, which was maximizing revenue from entertainment assets. It had systems, processes, a corporate methodology that had been refined across 47 facilities and that it applied, with the efficiency of long practice, to every new acquisition. The methodology did not have a category for the Morrvaakh situation. The authority's asset assessment team had reviewed the Morrvaakh file, had noted 11 years of operation, consistent draw, 63 successful engagements, had also noted 3 months of no engagements. Research access, an associated human researcher with no formal entertainment industry credentials, a medical treatment program, a behavioral assessment study, had determined non-performing asset, transfer to higher revenue facility, had not noted, because the asset assessment methodology did not include a category for it. What the Morrvaakh did when Dr. Sharma was late, the authority's transfer coordinator, a being named Prethvon who was very good at logistics and had never personally encountered anything he was transferring, had scheduled the transport 0600 Thursday. He had not told Dr. Sharma. He had not told the Morrvaakh, though this was standard. Assets were not informed of transfer schedules that he had also not, because it had not occurred to him that this was relevant information, told his transfer team what the Morrvaakh had done 3 months ago to a fully equipped 8-person enforcement team from the Vex Syndicate. This would turn out to be an oversight. Dr. Priya Sharma she arrived in 3 hours and 40 minutes. Not because she had been slow. She had come as fast as the available transport would carry her, which was very fast, because she had understood from Vriolin's voice that this was not a routine call. She came through the station's main entrance with her field bag over her shoulder and her portable biometric scanner clipped to her belt, and the particular focused expression of someone who had assessed the situation, determined the important variables, and was moving toward the thing that needed to be done. Vriolin met her at the gate. He showed her the order. She read it. She read it twice. Her expression did not change significantly. It was already focused. What changed was the quality of the focus. Something that sharpened, deepened. Corvette Station, she said. Yes, that's the authorities' flagship facility. Yes, their arena capacity is 4 times ours, Vriolin said. And their challenger recruitment is more aggressive, she said. I know. I've read their operational model. She looked at the order. Thursday, 0600. She looked at the gate. Beyond it, the corridor that led to the Morrvaakh section, where, 3 months ago, she had sat on the floor of the arena and a 4-ton apex predator had put its head in her lap. How is the inflammation? She said. 73% reduction since treatment began, Vriolin said. Movement efficiency is up significantly. The veterinary team says another 2 months of treatment and the chronic condition will be fully resolved. And if the treatment stops? He was quiet. The condition will return, he said. Probably worse than before, because the arena substrate at Corvette is the same compound, she said. I checked their facility specs when I heard about the acquisition. She had checked, because she was Dr. Priya Sharma, and she checked everything. Vriolin, what does the Morrvaakh know? Nothing, he said. The transfer coordinator didn't. Good, she said. Don't tell it. She walked toward the gate. Dr. Sharma, Vriolin said. She stopped. The order is from the authority, he said. They have legal ownership. If you interfere with the transfer, I'm a xenobiologist, she said. I'm going to check on my research subject. She went through the gate. The morning session, the Morrvaakh heard her before it saw her. This was standard. Its sensory array was sophisticated enough to identify her by the combination of her acoustic footprint and her chemical signature from the moment she entered the corridor. By the time she reached the gate to its section, it was already at the barrier. Waiting. It made the warm sound. She looked at it. 0.4 tons. 3 meters at the shoulder. Scales the color of deep space. Eyes that had looked at 63 challengers and found them all wanting. Eyes that were currently looking at her with the particular focused attention of an organism that had decided, some months ago, that she was significant. She had her biometric scanner out, running the morning assessment, checking the inflammation markers, the metabolic readings, the neurological activity data that she had been collecting since the first session. The data was good. Better than good. The Morrvaakh was healthier than it had been at any point in 11 years of arena records. She sat down. Not on the floor this time. She had a proper field stool now, which she brought to every session, because sitting on the floor of the arena for 3 hours a day had been fine for the first 2 weeks, and then progressively less fine as her back had strong opinions about it. The Morrvaakh lowered itself to the ground across from her, its familiar resting position. They sat together. She ran her assessment. It watched her work with the focused, patient attention it had been developing over 3 months of morning sessions. The same quality of attention she had seen in the first minutes of their first encounter, when it had stopped its advance and processed the data of a being that didn't behave like prey. Thursday, she said quietly. Not to it. It couldn't understand English. To herself, thinking out loud the way she did when she was working through a problem. We have until Thursday. The Morrvaakh tilted its head 0.4 degrees to the left, the same head tilt from the first day. It's all right, she said, in the tone she used, the low, even tone that it had learned, over 3 months, to associate with sessions and her presence and the specific category it had filed her IN. Safe. It settled back down. She kept working. Thinking 0.3 months ago she had walked into an arena by accident and sat down on the floor, and a 4-ton apex predator had put its head in her lap because she hadn't been afraid of it. Thursday, a transfer team was coming. She had until Thursday. What she did, she spent Tuesday doing 3 things simultaneously. First, she completed the most comprehensive single-session biological assessment she had conducted since beginning the research program. Full metabolic panel. complete inflammation mapping, neurological activity documentation at a level of detail that would have taken her standard equipment a week to compile, and that she accomplished in one day because she had spent 3 months calibrating her protocol specifically for this subject, and because she had, when motivated, a work capacity that her colleagues described as slightly alarming. Second, she filed a formal research protection application with the Panspecies Science Collective's Xenobiological Ethics Board. The application argued that the Morrvaakh represented an ongoing research subject of significant scientific value, that the research program had produced preliminary findings of genuine academic importance, that transferring the subject to a different facility and resuming arena engagement would constitute interference with active research and potential harm to a subject whose welfare was the responsibility of the institution currently managing the program. The application was thorough, detailed, supported by 3 months of data. It was also, she knew, likely to take longer to process than she had. She filed it anyway, because sometimes you used every tool available even when you weren't certain any of them would work. Third, she called everyone she could think of. Dr. Priya Sharma's professional network was, for someone who spent most of her time in remote field locations studying animals, surprisingly extensive. 17 years of fieldwork had produced 17 years of colleagues, collaborators, and fellow researchers who had, at various points, been in difficult situations and had found that Dr. Sharma was the kind of person who helped. She called them now, not to ask for anything dramatic, not for intervention or confrontation, for something more specific. I need documentation, she told each of them. Statements of research interest, letters from your institutions, anything that establishes that this research program has scientific value and that the subject's welfare is a matter of academic concern. She had 17 responses by Wednesday morning. 12 statements of research interest. 8 letters from institutions. 4 offers of formal co-investigator status on the research program, which would give additional parties standing to object to the transfer. 1 message from a professor at the Galactic Xenobiological Institute, who said, simply, I've been waiting for someone to do proper research on a Morrvaakh class organism for 30 years. Tell me what you need. She told him that he made 3 calls that she couldn't have made. And on Wednesday afternoon, Vriolin's communication device produced a message from the Hegemony Commercial Entertainment Authority's legal division that said, in the careful language of corporate lawyers who had just received communications from 3 senior academic institutions simultaneously, the transfer of entertainment asset Morrvaakh 1 is under review pending assessment of the research protection application. Transfer is postponed pending resolution. Timeline, uncertain. Vriolin read the message that he sat down. He read it again. Then he called Dr. Sharma. How did you, Vriolin, she said. I study animals for a living. I know how to be patient, and I know how to move quickly when I need to. A pause. We have a window. Let's use it. What the authority did. The authority's response to the postponement was not, as Vriolin had hoped, acceptance. It was escalation. The legal division's assessment had recommended the postponement because engaging with 3 senior academic institutions simultaneously was a reputational risk the authority had preferred to avoid. The commercial division's assessment was different. The Morrvaakh was the authority's highest value entertainment asset. Corvette Station's new arena had been built specifically around the expectation of having it. The promotional campaign had already launched. Pre-bookings were substantial. They had not paid the acquisition price for Velmis-9 to have their asset tied up in a research protection dispute. The commercial division sent their own legal team. Specifically, they sent advocate Vronketh, who had been resolving commercial disputes in the authority's favor for 15 years and who had a reputation for finding the specific pressure point in any situation that made the other side reconsider. He arrived on Wednesday evening. He reviewed the research protection application. He identified the pressure point immediately. Dr. Sharma's research credentials at Velmis-9 had been revoked by the original transfer order. The research protection application had been filed under those credentials. The credentials revocation predated the application. Technically, the application had been filed by someone without standing. Technically, it was invalid. He filed the technical objection Wednesday night. The ethics board, reviewing the objection Thursday morning, had to agree. The application was suspended pending credential review. The transfer was back on. New schedule, Friday. 0600. Vreeland got the notification at 0900 Thursday. He went to find Dr. Sharma. She was in the session, as she was every morning, sitting on her field stool, the Morrvaakh lying across from her, both of them quiet. Dr. Sharma, he said. She looked up. He showed her the notification. She read it. Her expression didn't change. She looked back at the Morrvaakh. They T4 tons of the most physically formidable organism in the Galactic entertainment catalog, lying quietly on the arena floor, watching her with the focused attention it reserved for her specifically. She thought for a moment. Then she said, "Give me a meeting with the authorities' commercial director." "They won't. Tell them," she said, "that I have data they haven't seen yet. Data that directly affects the commercial value of their asset. And that if they send a transfer team on Friday morning without hearing it, they'll be making a very expensive mistake." Vreeland looked at her. "Do you have that data?" "I will by tonight," she said. She picked up her scanner. She got to work. Thursday afternoon, the authorities' commercial director was named Kothfron. She had been running commercial entertainment operations for 20 years. She had managed assets ranging from individual performers to entire facility acquisitions. She was not, by her own assessment, easily impressed, and she was not, by the assessment of everyone who worked with her, easily moved by arguments she had heard before. She agreed to the meeting because the data claim was specific enough to be interesting. She sat across from Dr. Sharma in Velmis-9's administrative conference room. She looked at the researcher, small, lightly built, the field jacket that had been repaired too many times, the portable equipment clipped to her belt. She did not look, Kothfron thought, like someone who was going to tell her something she didn't already know. "Dr. Sharma," she said, "you have 15 minutes. Dr. Sharma opened her data presentation. "The Morrvaakh's current commercial value," she said, "is based on one metric: arena performance. 63 successful engagements in 11 years. Consistent challenger defeat record. That's what you paid for. That's what the Corveth Arena program is built around." "Yes," Kothfron said. "That metric," Dr. Sharma said, "has a ceiling." She pulled up the data. The Morrvaak's arena performance over 11 years shows a consistent pattern. Early years, peak performance. Years 4 through 8, gradual decline, partially masked by the chronic inflammation condition affecting its movement. Years 9 through 11, significant decline. Kothfron looked at the data. "Our assessment showed." "Your assessment used the official engagement records," Dr. Sharma said, "which document wins and losses. They don't document engagement duration, challenge quality, or the specific metrics that indicate whether an asset is performing at capacity or performing despite a degrading condition." She advanced the presentation. "The Morrvaakh has been fighting through chronic pain for 4 years. The arena performance you bought was the performance of an organism compensating for a physical condition. It looks impressive on the win-loss record. The underlying biology tells a different story." Kothfron was quiet. "You're saying the asset is degraded." "I'm saying the asset is degraded and declining," Dr. Sharma said. "At the current trajectory, without medical intervention, you're looking at significant performance reduction within 18 months and possible incapacitation within 3 years. And with medical intervention?" Dr. Sharma advanced the presentation again. "With the treatment program currently in progress, 3 months of data, inflammation reduction of 73%. Movement efficiency improvement of 31%. Neurological activity indicators showing the first positive trend in 4 years." She paused. "The Morrvaakh you have right now is not the Morrvaakh you could have in 6 months. The asset you're planning to transfer to Corveth is a declining asset. The asset this research program is producing is an improving one." Kothfron looked at the data for a long time. "You're arguing," she said slowly, "that the research program has commercial value." "I'm arguing," Dr. Sharma said, "that terminating the research program and transferring the asset to arena engagement before the treatment is complete will cost you more than continuing it." A pause. "The Corveth program is already marketed," Kothfron said. "I know," Dr. Sharma said. "I'm not asking you to cancel it. I'm asking you to delay it by 4 months. Complete the treatment. Let the asset reach its actual performance ceiling. Then transfer, with full research documentation that gives Corveth's program a scientifically supported asset profile instead of a declining one. For months. Possibly 3, Dr. Sharma said. if the treatment continues to progress at current rate. Cawthron looked at the data. 20 years of commercial experience telling her that the researcher across the table had found the specific argument that mattered, not the welfare argument, not the scientific value argument, the commercial argument, the one that made financial sense. The research program continues, she said. Your credentials are restored. The transfer is delayed pending treatment completion. She paused. But Dr. Sharma, when the treatment is complete, the asset transfers to Morrvaakh. That is not negotiable. Dr. Sharma looked at her. I understand, she said. What she didn't say she had not said. The asset doesn't want to go to Morrvaakh. She had not said. The asset waits by the gate when I'm late. She had not said. The asset makes a specific sound when I arrive that the audio engineers have classified as contentment and that I have come to recognize as the sound of something that has decided you are safe. She had not said any of these things because they were not commercial arguments and the meeting had required a commercial argument. But she thought them. Walking back to the session room. Walking back to the gate where the Morrvaakh was waiting. It was always waiting by the time she returned from anything, as if it had developed a sense of when she was coming back. She sat down on her field stool. The Morrvaakh lowered itself across from her. It made the warm sound. She looked at it. 3 months, she said quietly. Maybe 4. It couldn't understand her, but it could read the tone. It had been reading her tone for 3 months with the accuracy of an organism whose sensory systems were calibrated to read everything. The tone said, "We have time." It settled. She picked up her scanner. She kept working. What the transfer team did. The authority's commercial director had authorized the delay. The authority's transfer coordinator had not fully briefed his team on what the delay meant. Specifically, he had told them the transfer was postponed, but had not updated the operational briefing that detailed the asset's current status. The briefing his team was working from was the one prepared before the research program began, the one that described the Morrvaakh in standard arena asset terms. Large, aggressive, dangerous, handle with standard containment protocols. Standard containment protocols for a Morrvaakh-class asset involved a team of 8, heavy containment equipment, and the assumption that the asset would need to be sedated for transport. On Saturday morning, 3 days after the meeting, 5 days after the original Thursday transfer, the transfer coordinator sent his team to Velmis-9 anyway, not to execute the transfer. The delay was confirmed. He sent them to conduct a pre-transfer assessment, to evaluate the containment requirements, to check the asset's current condition against the operational briefing. Standard procedure. He did not tell Dr. Sharma they were coming. He did not tell Vriolin until they were already in the facility. And he did not tell his team that in the 3 months since the operational briefing had been prepared, the asset's situation had changed. Significantly. What happened? The team entered the Morrvaakh section at 0900 Saturday morning. Dr. Sharma was not there. She arrived at 0912. She heard it before she reached the gate. Not the warm sound. The other sound. The one the broadcast system had documented 63 times over 11 years. The one that translated across species boundaries with perfect clarity. Threat. She ran. The scene. 8 beings. Full containment equipment, restraint systems, sedation apparatus, the heavy-grade tools designed for moving large, dangerous animals that did not want to be moved. And the Morrvaakh. Standing. Not in the resting position. Not in the focused stillness that Dr. Sharma had come to know as its thinking posture. Standing. At full height. All 6 limbs engaged. The containment team had formed a perimeter, standard protocol, designed to work on the standard assumption that the asset would respond to overwhelming numbers and equipment by retreating. The standard assumption was wrong. The Morrvaakh was not retreating. It was not advancing either. It was doing something that the team's operational briefing had no category for. It was holding its ground. Not aggressively, not the stance of something about to charge. Something more specific. Something that Dr. Sharma recognized, with the particular pattern recognition of someone who had spent 17 years reading animal body language, immediately. It was guarding, standing between the team and the gate it used when Dr. Sharma came in. Between the team and the space where she arrived. It was guarding the space where she arrived. She reached the outer gate. She looked at the scene. 8 beings with containment equipment. For tons of apex predators standing between them and the place she came from. She took a breath. She did what she always did. She assessed the situation. Then she opened the gate and walked in. What she did. She walked in slowly, not the speed of someone who was afraid, the measured pace of someone who was paying attention to everything and making deliberate choices. The containment team saw her. Several of them moved, reflexively, toward her, the instinct to pull the civilian out of the danger zone. "Don't," she said. Her voice was level. Nobody moved. They stopped. She kept walking. The Morrvaakh heard her before it saw her. She watched it happen, the moment its sensory array registered her chemical signature and acoustic footprint. The specific shift in its posture. The shoulders, equivalent, dropping fractionally. The tension in the hind limbs releasing by a measurable degree. She walked to a position between the Morrvaakh and the containment team. She stood there. "Dr. Sharma," the team lead said. His voice was carefully controlled. "Please move away from the asset." "The asset," she said, "is not currently threatening anyone. It was responding to an unexpected intrusion into its space by unknown individuals with unfamiliar equipment," she said. "That is not aggression. That is an appropriate threat response to a perceived security situation." She kept her voice even. Educational. The tone she used when she was explaining something that was true and needed to be understood. "It is now standing down because it has identified me and assessed that the situation is manageable." The team lead looked at the Morrvaakh, which was, demonstrably, no longer in full threat posture, which was, demonstrably, looking at Dr. Sharma with the focused attention it reserved for her specifically, which was, almost demonstrably, the team lead was not certain he was reading this correctly, because nothing in his operational training had prepared him to read a Morrvaakh's emotional state, relieved. "You need to leave," Dr. Sharma said. Not aggressively. Factually. This was an unannounced assessment, and it was not authorized under the current delay agreement. "I will be filing a formal notification with the authority's commercial director. In the meantime, please leave." The team lead looked at his team. At the Morrvaakh. At Dr. Sharma, standing between them, completely composed. He made the decision that his professional instincts, honed by years of working with dangerous animals and the specific wisdom that came from that experience, told him was correct. He withdrew his team. As they left, one of the junior team members said, quietly, to the team lead. She walked into a room with a Morrvaakh at full threat posture. "Yes," the team lead said. And it stood down. "Yes." A pause. Is that normal? For a human? The team lead thought about everything he had just witnessed. About the Morrvaakh's posture when Dr. Sharma had entered. About the specific quality of the animal's attention when it looked at her. About what it had been guarding. "I don't know," he said. "I don't think normal is the right word." After. She sat on her field stool. The Morrvaakh lay across from her. She was running the morning assessment. Checking the data. Making notes. The Morrvaakh was watching her with its standard morning session attention. As if nothing had happened. As if it had simply done a thing that needed doing and the thing was done, and now they were back to what mornings were for. She looked at it. "You were guarding the gate," she said quietly. It couldn't understand the words. It understood the tone. The tone said, "I know what you did." It held her gaze. She thought about 3 months ago. About walking into an arena by accident and sitting down on the floor because that was the right thing to do. About an animal that had never been given a reason to trust anything finding. In the specific approach of one human with a scanner and no weapons, something its ancient instincts had filed under a category it had never used before. Safe. She thought about what it had done this morning. About standing between a team of 8 with containment equipment and the gate where she arrived. She thought about what that meant. Not scientifically. She had the scientific framing, selective social bonding, protective behavior toward bonded individual, elevated territorial response in defense of associated human. She thought about what it meant beyond the framing. About a 4-ton apex predator that had spent 11 years in an arena being the most dangerous thing in every room it entered, standing between 8 armed beings and a gate, because someone came through that gate every morning and sat with it. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay." She kept working. The Morrvaakh kept watching. Morning session. Same as always. What the authority decided. The formal notification she filed reached the authority's commercial director at 1100 Saturday. Cothron read it. Read the incident report from the transfer team lead, which she had also received. Read the transfer coordinator's response, which explained that the pre-transfer assessment had been standard procedure and that he had not realized it required separate authorization under the delay agreement. She called a meeting. The meeting was short. At the end of it, the transfer coordinator was reassigned to a facility that did not involve large, dangerous animals or researchers who walked into rooms with them. And Kothron called Dr. Sharma. "I've reviewed the incident," she said. "The pre-transfer assessment was conducted without appropriate notification. That was an error on our part. It won't happen again." "Thank you," Dr. Sharma said. A pause. "The treatment program continues," Kothron said. "As agreed." "Yes." Another pause. "Longer." "Dr. Sharma," Kothron said. "The incident report from the team lead included an observation." "Yes." He noted that the asset appeared to be guarding the entrance point associated with your access, that it stood down immediately upon your arrival. A pause. He described the asset's response to your presence as, and I'm quoting directly, "unlike anything I have encountered in 15 years of large animal containment work." "Yes," Dr. Sharma said. Is that what the research program has been documenting?" She thought about 3 months of morning sessions. About the warm sound. About the head tilt. About the Morrvaakh lying quietly on the arena floor for hours while she ran her assessments, watching her with the focused attention of an organism that had decided she was significant. "Among other things," she said. A very long pause. "Send me the full research dataset," Kothron said. "Everything. The behavioral assessment, the neurological data, the bond documentation." "Why?" "Because," Kothron said slowly, "I think I have been thinking about this asset incorrectly." "What changed?" The full dataset reached Kothron on Sunday. She read it over 12 hours. Not the summary, the full data. Every session log. Every biometric reading. Every behavioral observation note that Dr. Sharma had been making with the thoroughness of a scientist who understood that the details were where the understanding lived. She read the incident report from the original arena session 3 months ago. The one that had started all of this. The scheduling error, the 47 seconds of non-engagement, the Morrvaakh lying down, the head and lap moment. She read Dr. Sharma's session notes from the following weeks. The careful, methodical documentation of a relationship developing between a human researcher and a 4-ton apex predator. The specific observations. The data points. The analysis. She read the section on protective behavior. Subject demonstrates clear selective protective response toward researcher. Behavior is not generic. Response is specifically triggered by perceived threats to researcher's space or safety, not by general threat stimuli. This is consistent with advanced social bonding behavior in apex predator species, which typically do not form cross-species bonds. The formation of such a bond in the Morrvaakh, a species with no documented history of social bonding behavior, represents a significant finding. She read the section on cognitive development. Subjects' cognitive engagement, as measured by neural activity indicators, has increased by 47% since the research program began. This is consistent with the hypothesis that the subject's previous aggression levels were partly a function of chronic understimulation. A cognitively complex organism without adequate environmental enrichment, including social interaction, will show elevated stress-based aggression. The research program has provided both the medical treatment and the cognitive stimulation needed to address both factors. She read the final section. The Morrvaakh is not the asset it appeared to be 11 years ago. It is not the asset it appeared to be 3 months ago. It is an organism of extraordinary cognitive complexity that has been, for 11 years, operating in an environment that gave it no opportunity to express anything other than aggression. It has, in 3 months, demonstrated selective social bonding, protective behavior, cognitive growth, and a capacity for sustained non-aggressive interaction that 11 years of arena records gave no indication existed. The commercial model built around this organism's aggression has been exploiting one capability of a far more complex being. I recommend that the research program be expanded, not terminated. And I recommend that the question of what to do with this organism be considered with the full picture of what it actually is, rather than the partial picture of what it has been used for. End assessment note. Dr. P. Sharma. Kothron sat with the dataset for a long time. Then she called Dr. Sharma. "I want to propose something," she said. The proposal. What the authority proposed, and what, after 2 days of negotiation, was agreed, was this. The Morrvaakh would not be transferred to Corvette Station. It would remain at Velmis-9. The arena program would continue, but modified. not challenger engagements. A new format, developed in consultation with Dr. Sharma, that built on what the research had revealed. Demonstrations, educational sessions, the kind of programming that had become, in other entertainment contexts, significantly more commercially viable than traditional combat formats. The research program would be formalized, properly resourced, with Dr. Sharma as lead researcher and full institutional backing from the Pan-Species Science Collective's Xenobiological Division, whose director had, after reading the preliminary data, described it as the most significant behavioral research opportunity in a decade. And one more thing, Dr. Sharma's access to the facility, which had been revoked, restored, revoked again, and restored again in the previous 2 weeks, would be made permanent. Not as a research credential, as something the authorities' legal team had not, in its entire history, drafted before. An official designation. It was filed in the Morrvaakh's operational records under a heading that the legal team had created specifically because no existing heading covered it. Associated Human. Dr. P. Sharma, Earth. Permanent access. No restriction. Note: subject has demonstrated selective social bonding. Attempts to separate subject from associated human result in significant behavioral disruption. Do not attempt separation without prior consultation with associated human. Do not send pre-transfer assessment teams without notification. Vriolan read the new operational record. He had been running intake at Velmis-9 for 11 years. He had never seen this designation before. He had also never seen the Morrvaakh wait by the gate. He had never seen it make the warm sound. He had never seen it lie down in the arena for hours while someone with a scanner and a field stool asked it questions it couldn't understand. He put the operational record in the file. He went to the observation window. Below, in the arena, the morning session. Dr. Sharma on her field stool. The Morrvaakh lying across from her. Both of them quiet. Both of them exactly where they were supposed to be. 6 months later, the paper was published in the Journal of Pan-Species Xenobiology. It was titled Selective Social Bonding and Cognitive Development in Morrvaakh Class Organisms, a Longitudinal Study. Its author was Dr. Priya Sharma, affiliated with the Earth Xenobiological Institute and the Pan-Species Science Collective's Xenobiological Research Division. Its subject was listed as Subject M, Velmis-9 Entertainment Complex. The abstract said, in part, this study documents the first recorded instance of selective cross-species social bonding in a Morrvaakh class organism. Over a 9-month study period, Subject M demonstrated consistent and measurable bonding behavior toward the primary researcher, including recognition behaviors, protective responses, and what the study terms associated individual preference, a statistically significant tendency to exhibit positive neurological and behavioral indicators specifically in response to the presence of the associated individual. These findings challenge the established classification of Morrvaakh class organisms as non-social apex predators and suggest a significantly more complex cognitive and social architecture than previously documented. The study also documents the resolution of a chronic inflammatory condition previously unreported in arena records and its relationship to the subject's behavioral baseline. Recommendations for the care and management of Morrvaakh class organisms in captive settings are included. Note: the primary researcher wishes to acknowledge that none of this research would have been possible without a scheduling error, a misfile, and the particular quality of attention that results from walking into a room without a plan and sitting down on the floor. The paper was widely read. It was widely cited. It produced, in the xenobiological community, a significant reassessment of Morrvaakh class organisms, what they were capable of, what they needed. It also produced, in the entertainment industry, a significant reassessment of what audiences actually wanted, which turned out, when the new format launched at Velmis-9, to be considerably more interested in watching a 4-ton apex predator demonstrate cognitive complexity and selective social behavior with its associated human researcher than they had been in watching it in challengers. The new format's viewership exceeded the old formats by a factor of 4. Kothvron read the viewership data. She was a commercial director. She understood data. The data said, Dr. Sharma had been right about more things than she had known. She filed a note in the authorities' operational guidelines. It said, when a researcher walks into one of our facilities with a scanner and no weapons and sits down on the floor, Do not send them away. They know something we don't. Find out what it is. In the arena at Velmis-9, the morning session continued. Dr. Sharma on her field stool. The Morrvaakh across from her. The warm sound. The focused attention. The particular quality of two beings from completely different origins who had found, in the specific space between a scanner and a head tilt, something that neither of them had been looking for. Something that had no name in the xenobiological literature. Something that the operational record called associated individual. Something that, if you watched the morning session from the observation window, looked very much like trust. They tried to separate her from the beast. 8 beings. Full containment equipment. Standard protocols. They walked into the arena. The beast was waiting. Not for them. For her. Standing between the team and the gate she came through every morning. Guarding it. Because she sat on the floor the first day. Because she wasn't afraid. Because she looked at 4 tons of the most dangerous organism in the arena's history and said, "You are absolutely magnificent." And meant it. That was 3 months ago. They tried to take it away. They made the mistake of not understanding what 3 months of Tuesday mornings do. What trust does. What it means when something that has never been safe with anything decides, carefully, slowly, completely, that you are safe. They tried to separate her from the beast. The beast had other ideas. And the beast, as 63 challengers could have told them, always wins. Subscribe to Humans Hit Different for more HFY stories. The beast and the researcher. The T-Tray and the apex predator. The galaxy keeps underestimating what humans do when they sit down on the floor and pay attention. Bell subscribe. We're still sitting. We're still paying attention.